All right, good afternoon, my wonderful JTS juvenile delinquency students. My name is Samoya Henry. I am working with Miss Powell on this course, and you and I would have been in communication throughout the course, and I am using this opportunity to explain, examine, explore, describe the case study that is driving all of us crazy. I am hoping that at the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of what is required. You'll have a better appreciation of the template and not see it as the devil in disguise, but as some kind of support. I'm going to explain how you can use the template and show you that you don't have to overthink this assignment. Okay, so like I have stated before, I believe in a previous class, that the template is already structured in APA 7th edition. As such, when you are writing any other paper and your teacher says, hey, make sure your paper is formatted in APA 7th edition, it's already there. You can go back to this template, any other template that would have been provided by me for those of you who I teach, and you can use this for any of your courses. The second purpose of this template is to teach you how to write. Not just how to write like a research paper, but something like how to write a case study, how to use proper referencing, how to do in-text citations. It is not just a guide in terms of instructions to answer the questions, but it is also an opportunity to learn, right? I do this because in my years of being at JTS, and I haven't been at JTS long, the quality of writing has been very bad, very poor. And when I was in my doctoral program, my lecturers provided me with templates. And I thought I was the bomb.com when it came to writing. But it wasn't until I had these templates that I realized, wow, Samoya, you really suck. Like there's just so much I didn't know. And these templates were able to enhance my writing. They were way more detailed than this, but they provided what you call, or what I call, learning opportunities. So you will find that there are a mixture of learning opportunities as well as instructions for the assignment embedded in the template. The reason why it looks like a lot, because it is written in APA format. It is not single space in paragraph and bullet points and things like that. No, it is written double space, font 12 times new, Roman, blah, blah. Everything is paragraphed in an APA 7th edition format. Right? And that is for you guys to become familiar, especially for those who are not in the field of social work and you're not used to writing in APA. This is a guide. So I want you guys to forget all the anger that you have towards this template and this assignment. Forget all the sleepless nights that you have experienced because of this assignment. I want you to take a deep breath and open your mind and your heart to really understanding what this case study and this template is about and how it is here to help you. So I don't have to explain as much the title page because it's a self-explanatory. You must change the pseudonym in your title, remove the brackets, and you must do the same in the header. Okay. Of course, you include your name, the name of your lecturer, which would be Miss Tony and Powell, and the due date. I am resending this template, and as such, I've edited the table of content. However, if you have the old template where the table of content is extensive, all you have to do is to click on the table and click update table, and it will give you the correct table of content without that added sections to it, okay? Of course, you want to ensure that your table of content is Times New Roman 12. It's not bolded. It's 2.0 line spacing. And of course, you always want to see add space before paragraph, add space after paragraph. That's what you want to see. If it is that you are seeing remove space before paragraph, then you need to do that. All right. So that is the table of content. Then we are moving to the instruction. So this instruction must be removed by highlighting and pressing delete or backspace, all right? So this annotated template is used to guide the writing of your case study, okay? So you should have conducted an in-depth, at least 45 minutes. And listen, I am not watching these interviews. Miss Powell is not watching these interviews. So if you interview the person for 15 minutes and was able to get all the information you needed to write this assignment, then that's good. But I think 45 minutes is a good enough time. And I say 45 minutes because as a counselor, as a social worker, when you are engaging with a client, you want to try to meet with this client between 30 and 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour. That is the typical time frame that you are interviewing, trying to analyze, trying to assess a client. So this 45 minutes is to give you that experience in really sitting down and asking the questions and trying to assess a client about their history. Okay. Once again, this exercise is not to bore or stress. It's all about learning new skills, right? Opportunity to be able to speak with somebody who has been in trouble with the law or engage in some kind of deviant behavior. All right. I've had students who say, well, miss, I can't find somebody who has been to jail before. I can't find somebody who has been in trouble with the law. All right, fine. Find somebody who give them parents too much talking. Find somebody who's constantly getting in trouble at school or at church or somewhere. No human being is perfect. No human being lived as sweet and nice and cute as I am. I used to get my butt whooped. I've gotten myself in problems in school, right? So, and I know you guys know someone who has gotten themselves in trouble at some point. So you can use that individual as well, okay? Then you are to conduct a detailed biopsychosocial spiritual assessment of the individual. My social workers should know what this is. Those in guidance and counseling should know how to do an assessment. You're gathering information by asking questions, by speaking to the necessary individuals, whether it is through collateral contact or speaking directly to the client. You're asking questions about their experiences, but about what is going on, whether it's their past experiences or they're presenting problems, to try and determine what contributed to the issue, what caused this delinquent behavior. So you are talking about their childhood experience, you're talking about their school history, talking about their developmental history. Like I know somebody who is in constant trouble with the law, constant trouble, right? And she grew up in a wonderful household, wonderful family, somebody who loved and cared for them, but was constantly in problems with the law. And it's like, well, why is that the case? Well, the household she grew up in was her adopted family, because her mother, right, has a history of mental health issues, was doing drugs when she was pregnant, right, and then the person was hit down by a truck. So we see that there could be some medical, genetical issues that would have contributed to this kind of behavior, right? So that is what I want you guys to be able to look at. And yes, it says childhood experiences, socialization processes, school history, religious affiliation experience. I mean, you can ask those questions and maybe based on the answer, it may not necessarily apply. Maybe they didn't go to church, maybe, or they felt like they were too or maybe they just refuse. I don't want to talk about it, right? And so you don't have to put it in. If you don't have it, then what are you going to do, right? So, but something like, okay, my parents were highly religious, wouldn't let me go anywhere, wouldn't let me do anything as such. I wanted to figure out life on my own. I was sheltered. I wanted to rebel, right? So these are some of the things that you want to be listening out for during this 45-minute interview. You're not required to transcribe the interview, right? You're not required to provide exactly what was said in the interview, but you need the interview to be able to help you to write the paper. Okay. It is important to remember that you are working with the client in the role of a social work student. So you should not be counseling. You should not be referring anybody to any agency or anything like that. You are a student, and that needs to be stated clearly. Okay. If you are choosing to interview a child, then your parents, you need to get permission from the parents, and they need to know that you are working in the capacity of a student. If you are choosing to interview an adult who engaged in juvenile behavior when they were younger, juvenile delinquent behavior when they were younger, then you need to let them know, I am working as a student. Okay. Then we move to the introduction. Now, I want you guys to note that I color coded a lot of stuff here for the purposes of explaining this case study. Now, earlier I said that the template is used for two main reasons: learning opportunities and to provide instructions. And as such, I have color coded and tried to highlight what are the learning opportunities versus what are just mere instructions. Okay, so in yellow, it says the introduction to a case study research paper should not only describe the research problem and its significance, but you should also describe why the case is being used and how it relates to addressing the problem. Okay, so this just is a learning opportunity here in yellow to describe what an introduction to a case study does. That's it. It's not telling you to do anything. It's not asking you to write anything here. It's just explaining to you what is an introduction in a case study. Okay. Then the instructions come in green. It looks pink here because I have a comment, but it's really supposed to be in green. Identify the research problem. Let us look at that. Identify the research problem. Well, Miss Henry, we're not doing a research, we're doing a case study. So why am I identifying a research problem? The research problem, right, is for you to be able to identify what the main idea or concern is from the interview, as it relates to juvenile delinquent behavior. All right. So it says, so from my comment that I wrote, right? Let us say you interviewed someone, you interviewed an adult, okay? And that you realize from the interview that they were saying that the minute their father left them, right? That's when all of the behavior started. Or they don't even have to explicitly say it. You realize because of your wisdom that, when looking at the childhood experiences and the school history and stuff, I realized that it's ever since the father left, that is when you started acting up, right? And then you realize, well, since the father left, the person was angry, mother was more stressed, grades started to drop, and the person started to engage in some behaviors that were not lawful. Therefore, your research problem could be, I wonder what I wonder what studies may say about the relationship between absent fathers and juvenile delinquent behavior. Because here is my person who I'm interviewing, who seems to be showing that when fathers are absent, it can contribute to juvenile delinquent behavior. I would really like to explore this more, right? So you want to be able, so that is how you identify the research problem. That is going to come from your interview, okay? Your research problem could be, all right, based on my interview, I realized this person, enough things contributed to why this person was behaving in such way. So your research problem could just simply be causes of juvenile behavior, factors that contribute to juvenile behavior. I was looking at one draft from one of your classmates, and based on the interview, right, the person she interviewed lost his or her parents, lost both parents, and ended up in the foster care system, right? And it was from being in the foster care system was when those behaviors began. It's losing the parents contributed to that, yes. And getting into the foster care system contributed to that as well. So a research problem could be, looking at the relationship between parental loss and juvenile behavior, or looking at how the foster care system promotes juvenile behavior, right? So that is what I mean by identifying the research problem, okay? Describe the subject of analysis. You have chosen to address the problem. The subject of analysis would be the person you are interviewing, right? Explain how they are linked and what elements of the case will help to expand knowledge and understanding about the problem. How are they linked? The subject of analysis lost his father to the prison, right? His or her father went to jail. And it wasn't until the father went to jail was when he started to demonstrate such juvenile behavior. And as such, this is linked to the research problem of how of how absent fathers can contribute to juvenile behavior, right? And all of this does not have to be 5-6 paragraphs, right? And what I'm going to do is, even from my head, I'm just going to write this introduction just from my head. So bear with me. Describe the significance of the research problem and state why a case study design and subject analysis of the paper that the paper is designed around is appropriate in addressing the problem. The significance of the study is a written statement that explains why research was needed. It's a justification of the importance of your work and the impact it has on your research, its contribution to new knowledge, and how others will benefit from it. So in the green are the instructions. In the yellow is what? Your learning opportunity. It is explaining to you what a significance of the problem really means. To describe the significance of the research problem and state why a case study design of the subject analysis is appropriate. So you want to justify why it is that you need to do this study. This is where you want to pull in your data, right? You want to look at, well, we've seen a growth in absentee fathers. And if absentee fathers are causing juvenile behavior, then we need to be able to study this, right? So we can propose some kind of intervention to reduce absentee fathers, right? And a case study, right? And you guys can go online and look on the internet to see why a case study is important. A case study helps you to look at an in-depth analysis of everything about a client. So a case study helps you to really zoom in on the issues that contributed to the juvenile behavior, right? And as well as looked at the consequences of the absentee father, right? So don't have to be 5-6 paragraphs. And I'm going to quickly, like I said, write this introduction and then move on. How will this study advance new knowledge or new ways of understanding? So if you are interviewing your client, right? And you said, okay, my client lost his father to prison, okay? And because of that, he ended up in engaging in juvenile behavior as a child, okay? And you realize, well, now my client is doing well. And he's doing well because of the support of his mother, of the support of the community, of some kind of program he or she was in, of going to church. So that's, you can say, okay, having a support system, having a support group, right, helps this person to be able to not transition into adult delinquent behaviors, right? And all of the information will depend on what was discussed in your interview. All right, so let us write. So I'm just going to put this down and I'm going to write an introduction. I always believe that you should begin your paper with some kind of definition, overview, or something. That is just me, okay? So my style of writing is always to begin with either a data, statistic, definition. Some people like to begin with quotes, and I have no problem with quotes. My only problem with using a quote is that you use the quote and it is hanging there, just waving on the crowd, and it is not linked to the rest of your paragraph. So if you say, well, according to John Doe, you are a product of your environment, and then you move on to say juvenile delinquency is blah blah blah. where is the connection? You have to make that connection to the next sentence. So if you don't know how to use a quote properly, please do not use it. You can say, well, according to John Doe, you are a product of your environment, right? And this can help us to understand why people may engage in juvenile behaviors, and then you jump into juvenile delinquency is, and you want to make that connection. Each sentence must connect to the one before and the one after that. That helps to keep your flow of thoughts organized. So let me begin with some, and I'm just making this up from my head, all right? So studies have shown that 73% of youths engage in some type of delinquent behaviors at some point in their lives. There are current concerns about the increase in the number of youths getting in trouble with the law, and immediate actions to eradicate this progressive issue is needed. Okay, that is a little introduction. Okay, to explore juvenile delinquency even further, a case study was conducted by engaging in a 45-minute interview with 27-year-old Jane Doe. Now, I want you guys to see how the sentences flow. So I start with that kind of data, and notice I didn't even start with what juvenile delinquency is, right? I'm starting with a little bit of data just to let people know what's going on, let people know that its problem is increasing, and you know that something has to be done, right? And we need to start by looking a little bit more at the issue. And so I'm looking at more at the issue by conducting this case study with 27-year-old Jane Doe. Okay, Jane Doe was determined to be a juvenile delinquent, as she has been arrested multiple times when she was younger, right? Jane Doe, let me not start back with Jane. All right, let's just go there. So pause this for a second. Okay, so I just added the interview highlighted that her delinquent behavior or behaviors began when she was first molested by her older cousin, right? Now we can quickly talk about the research problem, right? So you can say, as such, this case study will explore the relationship between child sexual abuse and delinquent juvenile delinquent behaviors. Okay, now you see how the answering of the question was literally in one sentence or two, right? Okay, so let us move on explain how they are linked and what elements of the case will, and I already did that. I already explained how it was linked, right? Because I said she was first molested by her older cousin. And as such, we want to look at, do you see that linkage here? She was a victim of child sexual abuse. She engaged in delinquent behaviors, and as such we want to explore that topic a little bit further through the case and the experience of Jane Doe. Okay, so describe the significance of the research study or why it is important. All right, so here is a next paragraph that we can begin. Okay, child sexual abuse, unfortunately, is a very common social issue in the world, with 45% of children experiencing such trauma. There is no secret of the severe negative consequences of child sexual abuse, including development of psychological issues such as depression and anxiety, suicidal ideations and attempts, poor academic performance, and as this case study would suggest, engagement in delinquent behaviors. Now, guys, all of this, and I'm no expert in juvenile delinquency, right? And all of this I am making up from my head. The only thing that is definitely false is the data. I don't know if 73% of people are engaged in delinquent behaviors, right? But all of that you can easily get from the internet. And I'm not even including my citations right now. I will get to that eventually. But I want you guys to have an understanding that it's not asking for a lot. Okay. So in order to, let me see what else. Right, so a case study. Oops. A case study will help to provide greater insight into the development of the delinquent behavior, any gaps in services to support the clients that experienced trauma, and highlight any intervention that may have helped in decreasing such behavior and improving the overall well-being of the client's life. And you can go on the internet and they can give you all type of reasons why a case study is very useful. All right, so notice I am at two paragraphs, barely at a page, not even at a page yet, because the instructions are still there. And I have already pretty much finished my introduction. All right. How will this new knowledge of new result? So and this just depends on your research. If you don't want to answer that question, it's perfectly fine. If you do, that's fine as well. So there are very limited number of case studies that examines juvenile behavior being a result of child sexual abuse, or in the Caribbean, or in Jamaica. Not only will this case study explore, I think I keep saying explore, look at how child sexual abuse impacts the behavioral development of a child, but provides a cultural context as subject of analysis is in Jamaica. The government has been working towards tackling these two issues, both child abuse and criminal activities. This case study would be excellent, would be relevant and important to tackling, spell that wrong, tackling, would be relevant and an important contribution to addressing these social issues. All right, once again, all from my head, no research done, just from my own understanding, my own thoughts and stuff like that. That is your introduction. This is your introduction. All right, right here. Let me zoom out to 100 pages. And this is, oops, Times New Roman. Right. I just want to see if it is that, I just want to see how many pages this is if I remove the instructions. That's all. So I'm just going to edit it so I can see how many pages we're working at. So look at that, a page and 2 sentences as your introduction, right? With all the instructions there. So not difficult at all, not difficult. I'm going to keep this example here. I want you guys to know I do not want to see this in your papers. Okay, this is just to be used as an example. Okay, let us continue. So we've done the introduction. Didn't take us more than a few minutes to write. Didn't require a lot of research to do. Only thing that you may have wanted to look up is the actual statistics. And then of course, I would want to put in my citation, right? So let's say we got this from Brown 2019, right? Whenever you are going to be using statistics, it is important that you use your direct quotes for all statistics, okay? If this is coming from a journal article, a textbook, you use the page number. If it's coming from the internet, you use the paragraph number. Okay. This is all just for learning opportunities, all right? So 45% of children experiencing some kind of trauma. Henry, 1993, not a good example. It's off the internet, paragraph 5, right? So we want to ensure that our statistics are in direct quotes, and we want to ensure that we include our in-text citation, okay? All right, so let's look at the literature review. Once again, everything we have in yellow is what? Learning opportunity. So this is explaining to you what the literature review is about. The literature review for a case study is focused on providing background information and enabling historical interpretation of the subject of analysis in relation to the research problem. So you're getting background information, and what is our research problem again? Looking at the child sexual abuse and how that contributes to the delinquent behavior, right? So, and that should come up in your interview, right? It's not something that you, even though you're doing the interview first, right? The fact that this person was molested, you should see how this sexual abuse really contributed to what has been going on, right? So, you know, you will have the information to be able to write this part. All right. So this is still explaining what the literature review is all about. Then you can go ahead and write your literature review, okay? So it explains that the literature review provides background information on the clients, and you are summarizing what other studies have been done. Remember when I asked you guys to do the annotated bib? So summarize studies related to your research problem. This is where that comes into play, using those summaries that you did to write the literature review. Okay. So I cannot really do this out of my head because I don't have any literature in my head right now. But let us say I was writing this for the sake of example, okay? So literature. Good. So I'm going to begin with a little overview of the case, right? So this is, what do we call her? Jane Doe is a 27-year-old female with a history of childhood sexual abuse and engagement with the law, okay? Jane Doe currently works as a caseworker at the Bridgetown Family Center. She has a bachelor's degree in social work with a minor in theology. Jane Doe has no children and appears to have a series of uncommitted relationships. I am just making this up, providing a little bit of information to the literature review. When Jane was younger, when Jane was 17 years old, she was charged for assault with a weapon and was sentenced to actually decrease that age. She was 15 years old, sentenced to 3 years in juvenile detention. Jane had expressed that she always had issues. And this began when she was first sexually assaulted by her older cousin. Oops. She did not she informed her mother, who did not believe her. Typical. And the assault continued. The abuse continued for 2 years. It wasn't until she threatened her cousin with a knife that the abuse stopped. So I've given a little overview of the literature review, right? Then I can say something like there are studies have shown let me not say that. There are many case studies similar to Jane's story, where sexual abuse was a key factor in delinquent behaviors as a youth, right? Stephen, my sister's here. Oh, geez, I forgot how that means. Stephen et al. 2017 conducted a study with twins, Paula and Susan, who were also sexually assaulted at the age of 7 years old. The case study showed that the twins were in and out of juvenile detention and were both suspended 4 times for fighting in school. Another study investigated by Campbell 2014 examined the case of Peter Hansen, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old boy from Jamaica, who was expelled from 4 schools, but was also determined to have been sexually assaulted by his father at the age of So this is what I'm kind of expecting to see. You are looking at other studies. You are summarizing them to see if they are similar to what you gathered from your interview. Okay. All right. And that's it. You can take 2 articles, you can take 3 articles, and you can just do a quick summary. Okay. Yeah, that is that. So that can take a next page. So far we are at page 1. And next the literature review. If this is like a page, maybe 2 pages, we're looking at 3 pages so far. All right. Now we're going to talk about the conceptualization and theoretical framework. Okay, the instructions again in green. Discuss 2 theories based on what you guys talk about in class that can be applied to the case. We are here, we are just learning about what theories do in case studies, okay? And then the instruction is ensure to introduce and describe a theory, explain why the research, that explains why the research problem under the study exists, address how the client's history affects his or her presenting issues. All right, so we're going to be talking about the theory. So I like to start off with what? The definition. So theories are often used to explain behavior and guide interventions. They are embedded in key courses. They're embedded in key areas such as psychology, social work, and counseling, and are used by practitioners to inform practice. Okay. Theories are no stranger to the world of juvenile delinquency. In fact, there are quite a few theories that explain criminal activities and crime causation. In the case of Jane Doe, 2 theories will be used to explain the cause of Jane's juvenile behavior. These 2 theories are blah, blah, blah. Okay. I started off with a little overview of theories, right? I linked the theories back to our course, juvenile delinquency. I linked the theory to criminal or delinquent behavior, and I linked it now, getting ready to talk about Jane. Right? And then I am going to go ahead and I can use a level 2 heading, right? Let's call it theory A, right? And I'm going to name what theory A is, and I'm going to explain. Theory A suggests that criminal behavior is caused, criminal or delinquent behavior is caused by blah, 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 blah. Jane, or this theory, can be applied to Jane's case because blah, blah, blah. A paragraph, that's it. 1 paragraph to explain this, right? Then you move on to theory B, right? You're going to define theory B, suggest that criminal behavior, blah, blah, blah. In the case of Jane, she, blah, blah. I need you just explain how it is applied. And next paragraph, that's it. That doesn't even take up a whole page depending, but let's just say it takes up a page. So now we're only at 4 pages, right? And we are going to then move on to the methodology. So here are the instructions. Explain why you selected a particular case, the strategy you use to identify the person, explain why you had selected this person, mention any background information that's important for the person, and the learning opportunities. The way you describe the methods used varies depending on the type of subject of analysis that constitutes your case study. So it's just for you to be able to learn. Okay, it's particularly important to differentiate. So this is, once again, is a learning opportunity. Let me put that in yellow. Okay, so your method, I can explain to you how you chose your person. You know, right? Let us say you select this person from your job. Okay, you got permission from your job to be able to work with this person. Okay, so Jane, let's just say I'm a caseworker as well, or I'm a casework supervisor, I don't care. And I asked Jane permission to be able to interview her for this. Simply state that Jane Doe works at the same agency for which I am employed. I noticed how, well, I was previously aware of her past and was intrigued by how far she has come, right? Permission was sought to interview Jane. The assignment was explained and Jane agreed after being Jane provided consent. And there's certain cases that you can write in first person. Especially in a case, in a case study for sure, where you, the researcher, are fully engaged in the research, doing the interview and stuff like that. It is also okay for you to write in first person. All right. Let's see what does it says. Jane, Jane's client has always expressed her has always expressed about the quality of her work ethics, and her ability to be able to work to relate to her clients. It was interesting to explore how G was able to overcome such childhood adverse experiences or adverse childhood experiences and things that or factors that contributed to her delinquent lifestyle and systems that aided her growth and development. One paragraph. That's all I needed, one paragraph, right? Then you go in to write your biopsychosocial assessment, okay? Now, there are two ways in which you can write this assessment, okay? You can write this assessment if the client is currently engaged in delinquent behavior, that you can write it presently, right? Or you can write the assessment as if you were working with Jane when she was younger, right? Because that can help you to understand what contributed to her delinquent behaviors in the past. So you can write it as if Jane is younger, or you can write it as if Jane was still engaged with the law, you can write it for her current age, okay? So in this case, Jane has done well for herself. And as such, I'm going to write this biopsychosocial assessment as if she was a child, okay? And so I write all of this. And once again, it just depends on the information that you have. So if you don't have any information about her spiritual life, you don't have any information about anything about her genogram or her economic, if they don't provide that to you, simply say information not available. This is what we do in real life. This is how it is. This is how it works, right? I want you guys to experience in as much as possible how it works in real life. Okay, your genogram, EcoMap, if they don't provide you with a family history, client did not provide family history, or subject did not provide family history, or you can just simply draw what was provided. There's a cousin. If there's a cousin, then there must be a uncle or auntie, right? There's a mom. There's probably if there's a mom, there must be a dad, and there's a way to put if it is not known and things like that. So this section will take up more pages, but it's not going to be more than maybe 3 pages. So we're already at about 7 pages, and that's because of that biopsychosocial spiritual assessment piece. All right. Treatment plan. Once again, what would you recommend if you were working with Jane when she was younger? I would recommend Jane to do what? Get counseling. I would recommend Jane to be referred to the child guidance clinic. I will work on Jane's anger. I will recommend CBT therapy, anger management, counseling, anger management group, things like that. And right, and you can just write that. That will not going to take no more than 2 paragraphs, and you can quickly do a quick research, right? To show that yes, CBT has been used to support anger management, right? Psychoanalytic therapy has been shown to improve the lives of sexually abused children or something like that, right? And you support that using your literature. You can use one intervention, 1 or 2 treatments. You don't have to give the whole list, but just to demonstrate that you have an understanding of how you can help this client. If you want to say, okay, anger management therapy and an individual CBT counseling. Those are the 2 things that you want to use. And then look up to justify, like, is research showing that these two things work, okay? Then for your results and discussion, briefly reiterate the research problem, which you already have. And then after you've done your interview and stuff like that, right? What did you find? Which you're pretty much rewriting everything that you just wrote. That, hey, based on this long interview, childhood sexual abuse is a significant factor in juvenile delinquent behaviors. And many studies are out there, or there are some studies that are out there that has proven that. And it doesn't matter which culture or which country you are from, the results are the same. That's it. Right? And based on what you found in the case study, so relate your case study to those found in others. And I'm rushing because I'm 10 minutes late for a meeting. So the case study, the results of this case study are similar to the results of the other case studies that were done in other countries, or it contradicts, right? Depending on what you found in the interview. So just as for future research, okay? This part is supposed to be in yellow. Hey, we need to do more research on males because all of the research focus on female sexual abuse. We need to do more research within the Caribbean context because all of it is just focused on the Western countries and things like that. 2, 3 sentences and you are good to go. You can quickly conclude in one paragraph, include your references, and that is it. You are done. I am going to send this to you guys with the examples that I have. And I honestly, if you still don't understand, then I quite frankly don't know what else to say. Okay. I don't know what else to say, and you may just have to opt to what you call it there, losing the 15 points because I don't know what else to say. Thank you and have a good weekend.